What's going on, guys? My name is Austin. This is the Bodies in Business podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk about protein and fiber intake because I want you to either maintain or grow muscle. And I also want you to have a great gut. All right. Not just on the outside, but also on the inside. So the reason why protein and fiber are so important is because there's been a lot of research done in the past 5 to 15 years that shows that these are two of the most powerful and most important macronutrients there are. So I just want to jump into it right away and tell you from the experts what they've seen through research, how much protein you should be taking in on a daily basis and how much fiber you should be taking in on a daily basis. So let's talk about the protein first. Experts have said that you need to take in between 1.2 grams and 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Okay, and I'll do some math for you here in a little bit, but 1.2 grams to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight, that is the suggested amount of intake per day. Okay, experts tend to agree that around 14 to 15 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories of intake daily. So let's just say you eat 2,000 calories in a day. You should take in about 28 to 30 grams of fiber in a day if you're eating 2,000 calories in a day. So with that being said, let's jump right back into the protein intake before we jump into a lot of other fun topics. So I want to break down what 1.2 grams and 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight looks like for me at 190 pounds. So I weigh 190 pounds. So I take 190 and I divide that by 2.2, which gives me 86.4 kilograms. Then I take that 86.4 kilograms, I multiply it by 1.2 to give me the amount of grams that I need in protein. That gives me 103.6 grams of protein in one day. Okay? Basically 104 grams of protein. If I do 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, then I would be taking in 138 grams of protein roughly a day. So that's about 35 grams more than it would be if I was taking in 1.2. Now, for a 150 pound person, I wanted to do this as well, just so if you're, not as big as me, or maybe you're bigger, so you may have to do some more calculations. But if you're a 150 pound person, you're taking in about 82 grams of protein per day. And then if you multiply that 68.2 kilograms by 1.6, you're going to be taking in 109 grams of protein per day. So that's just a quick breakdown of the experts saying, hey, if you want to take in 1.2 grams to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight, that's how you do the calculations. All right. And that's what I'm trying to get the brass tacks here, because I think on a daily basis, you want to think like tactically and operationally whenever you're thinking about how can I live to be the longest I can and do it in a healthy fashion. You got to get down to the nitty gritty. So if you are a person who wants to know how much protein that they may want to take in a day, take your weight, divide by 2.2 to get it into kilograms, and then multiply by 1.2 to 1.6 in that range to get the amount of protein that you need to take in a day. Now, what I'll say on that topic as well is the RDA for protein, which is the recommended daily allowance of protein recommended by the Food and Nutrition Board of the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, say that to aim to prevent deficiency in protein is your intake should be 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. There is a somewhat of a debate on how much protein is enough protein to maintain muscle and then also grow muscle. So from the experts that I've listened to, like Rhonda Patrick, Peter Attia, Layne Norton, and those types of people who are very, very entrenched in this information, they have said between 1.2 and 1.6 is a pretty good range to take in that amount of protein per day. So if I were to do 0.8 grams of protein at 190 pounds, that's only 69 grams of protein. And I pretty much eat that in like a meal and a half or 2 meals. And if you're 150 pounds, 0.8 grams, it's only 54 grams of protein, which in all honesty, if that was the case, I'd be like, man, that's awesome. If I only have to take in 69 grams of protein to maintain my muscle or to build muscle. So that's protein. And then on fiber, recommended intake is 15 grams per 1,000 calories eaten in a day. So if you eat 2,000 calories, it's around 30 grams of fiber. And we're going to get into what the average is on the average American takes in. But first, I also want to break down, like, why is this important? Why do we care about protein and fiber? Well, think of your body like a bridge, okay? And the food that you put in your body is going to build that bridge and it make it very, very strong, or it's going to make it very weak. And it's going to make it maybe very brittle over time. So we want to make our bridge very, very strong so that cars and other things can go over our bridge because we want to be strong. So think of food as the materials that you're building this bridge, and you want to be strong. You want this bridge to be really, really strong. Okay. That's why we care about the food that we put in our body. Okay. So why do we need to focus on protein and fiber? And I'm going to break down the protein piece specifically. Eating protein is important because protein helps your body grow strong and work properly. Protein helps build your muscles so you can run faster, jump higher, climb better. It helps fix your body when you get bumps, scrapes, and sore muscles. Protein helps you feel full so you don't get super hungry again 5 minutes later after eating. If it helps your brain and body have energy to play, learn, and focus. And what I want you to think is, like, I want good quality protein. Now let's talk about fiber. Fiber. Why do we want to eat enough fiber? Well, eating fiber is important because fiber helps your tummy and your body work the right way. For some reason, tummy makes me laugh. Okay. Fiber helps your tummy do its job so you can go to the bathroom easily. It helps clean out your insides like a broom. Fiber helps you feel full, so you're not hungry again right away. It helps you keep your energy steady and not super high and then super tired. So fiber also helps your heart and body health as you grow. Fiber comes from foods like fruits, veggies, beans, and whole grains. All right. So anybody that's doing the carnivore diet may want to think about bringing in some fruits and vegetables because fiber is actually really, really good for your body and brain, or mostly your tummy. And a guy named Layne Norton really dives into this and tells us in a video that we watched that he said that the correlation between fiber and longevity is very tightly correlated. And they say there might be some, correlation between just healthy people eating fiber and their longevity. But that's really cool to think, okay, if I eat more fiber, I will live longer from a body standpoint. So we talked about why fiber and protein are so important. Now, let's talk about what are good sources of fiber. Let's talk about what are good sources of protein. Good sources of protein, good sources of animal proteins are chicken breast, turkey, salmon, tuna, beef, eggs, yogurt, cottage cheese, and even whey and plant-based protein powders. Those are animal protein sources. Plant protein sources are things like tofu, tempeh, edamame, lentils, black beans, chickpeas, quinoa, peas, almonds, chia seeds, and hemp seeds. Some people are on a particular diet and want to stick to a certain type of protein that they eat because maybe they don't want to eat animal proteins and they just want to eat plant proteins because of certain reasons. Or maybe you just want to eat animal proteins and you don't want to eat plant proteins because of some reason you have as well. What we really want to focus on when we're eating protein and getting enough protein are complete proteins that are minimally processed. Complete proteins contain all 9 essential amino acids. And usually animal proteins contain all 9 essential amino acids. That's why it's beneficial for most people to eat animal-based proteins because those 9 essential amino acids your body can't produce. And so animal proteins are usually an easy way to take in those 9 essential amino acids. Now, plant proteins, you can get all 9 essential amino acids. And I can tell you the plant proteins that have all 9 essential amino acids, but usually, if you're eating plant proteins that don't contain all 9 essential amino acids, you have to combine things like rice and beans or hummus and pita bread or peanut butter and wheat bread in order to make complete proteins. Okay, so usually plant proteins are missing a certain type of protein an amino acid So you have to pair them with another plant protein in order to create a complete protein. And that's what I really want you to think about when you're thinking about protein intake, is focus on getting complete proteins and don't focus too much on, obviously you want to get an array of proteins, but a lot of times we put ourselves in these buckets like I'm a carnivore or I'm a vegan. And those are very, very extreme cases where it's like you want to have a balanced diet most of the time. And so you don't want to be deficient in certain nutrients. And the way to do that is having a balanced diet. So from a protein standpoint, focus on complete proteins. And when you're eating a meal, you want to have an adequate amount of protein when you're eating a certain meal. So I try to shoot for around 30 to 50 grams of protein when I'm eating a meal, because I'm trying to hit around 140 to 150 grams of protein in a day. So if I eat 3 meals that are 30 to 150 grams, then I'm going to get around 130 to 100. Sorry, if I eat 3 meals that have 30 to 50 grams of protein in a day, gosh, I'm really, really bad here. 30 to 50 grams of protein in one meal, and I eat 3 of those, then I'm going to be eating around 130 to 150 grams of protein in a day. Okay. So yeah, let's talk about fiber. All right. Now, fiber, there are foods that are high in fiber. And I want to I can list off a bunch of them, but these are the foods, I want to list off the foods that I tend to eat that are high in fiber. I eat almonds, black beans, avocado, apples, carrots, bananas, sweet potatoes, brown rice, cashews, blueberries. I also eat russet potatoes. I also eat broccoli. So those are like my main go-tos when it comes to eating fiber in the day. And for me, I eat around 3,000 calories a day. And so I tend to need around 40, like they say, around 40 to 45 grams of fiber in a day, because like I said to begin with, you want to eat around 14 or 15 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories you eat. So if I'm eating 3,000 calories in a day, technically I probably should eat around 40 to 50 grams of fiber, 40 to 45 grams of fiber. So whenever I did the math on eating a full day of food, when I just included all of those fiber sources, it came out for me to 47 grams of fiber, which is pretty good because you want to be able to hit that certain gram of fiber or hitting that total gram of fiber on a consistent basis. They say that the average amount of fiber that the average US adult is eating on a daily basis is around 10 to 15 grams of fiber. And the recommended amount of fiber is almost double that if you're eating around 2,000, is almost double that if you're eating around 2,000 calories. So that's something where a lot of people are just not getting enough fiber in their daily diet to help their gut have enough probiotics, prebiotics, and clean itself out to be healthy, right? So that's something that you need to think about whenever you're thinking about a good diet for yourself, because when you think about adding in enough protein and adding in enough fibrous foods, then you're going to be eating enough calories and enough fiber and enough protein throughout the day to hit the amount of protein and fiber you need to live a healthy life, okay? Because a lot of times, if we just focus on calories, then we try to input foods that maybe not have enough fiber to hit our fiber totals for the day, or even hit enough of our protein needs for the day. So that's why I like to focus on protein and fiber, because those two things are the most important parts of our diet up until this point, according to experts. Now, why are protein and fiber sources tough to take in? That's the real question. If people aren't getting enough protein and fiber throughout the day, and we'll just start with fiber. Let's start with fiber. Why are people not getting enough fiber in throughout the day? Okay, here are some reasons. Diets high in processed foods don't allow you to get enough fiber. So like fast food restaurants or packaged foods, these two things usually take a lot of the fiber out of your food because they want the food to be palatable, okay? They want it to taste really good so you eat more of it, so that you buy more of their product. So they have stripped away the fiber content in their food. Not all of it, doesn't mean they've taken out all of it, but foods taste a lot better when they don't have a lot of fiber in it. Okay, they can taste a lot better. There's also a lack of awareness around fiber needs. Okay, some people just don't even know how much fiber they need in order to have a healthy gut, in order to maintain a good digestive tract. Okay, so we talked about how much fiber you need. You need around 10 to 15 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories that you eat. People have limited access or time for food prep. Okay, so I know that a lot of times throughout the day, we just get so busy that we just don't have enough time to prepare a lot of food that have a lot of fiber in it. We need something right away, or we feel like we do. So then we just grab something and go. It's either a packaged food or it's the fast food restaurants that just are pre-made things of food so that we can just keep doing our day, so we can keep going. And that's one of the biggest reasons why in today's world, we're just such a fast-paced world that it's tough to get foods with fiber unless you do food prep up front, or you already plan to go get different types of foods that have fiber in them. Another reason why we probably don't get enough fiber is digestive discomfort when increasing too quickly. So sometimes people go way too hard on the fiber and you start getting some, bubbly guts, or you start having like a very loose, stool, and you're like, oh man, I'm eating way too much fiber. I don't need to eat as much anymore. And then, to be honest, we prefer low fiber foods. And that kind of goes into the taste quality. A piece of broccoli probably does not taste as good as a cookie that doesn't have any fiber in it. And foods that are very, very palatable, that have been engineered to be really, really good, a lot of times don't have a lot of fiber in them because they just taste better when they don't have fiber. Those are reasons why we probably don't eat enough fiber. Now, why would we not eat enough protein? Okay. Well, skipping or rushing, or I'll tell you the biggest reason I think is protein is usually very expensive. Okay. When you buy any type of protein at a restaurant, any high quality protein is going to be the most expensive thing on the menu. You go to a restaurant. I went to a restaurant last night, and the most expensive things on the menu were steak and lamb. And those are two very, very high quality pieces of protein. And that's why they cost so much, because those take the longest to process, in the sense of like getting ready to cook and do all that stuff. And it's hard to get those things. So it's much easier to get rice and beans, which are way cheaper, and there's more of abundance. So rice and beans are going to be a lot less in cost. Now, and I can go into in a little bit of ways to bring down your protein costs. But so that's what I think. I think protein is so expensive in a day-to-day form in your head, that if you're buying your protein that is already pre-prepared for you, like at a restaurant or a fast food restaurant, I separate the two, or just at the grocery store, if it's already prepared, it's going to cost a lot more. All right. Protein needs are often underestimated. That means that most people don't even just know how much protein they need in a day. Okay. Convenience foods are low in protein usually. Now, I will say, in today's world, protein has become a much more cared about macronutrient. And so people are throwing protein in just about everything. You got protein cookies, you got protein donuts, you got protein drinks, you got protein like bars, you got protein everything. Now, what I'll say is, on that note, is you want to, of a majority of the time, to eat high quality protein. All right. And usually if you're eating high quality protein, that means you're preparing it for yourself, because you don't want to have to spend tons and tons of money to go buy high quality protein from a restaurant, or that it's already made for you, because that's going to be tough. Like, we're not all millionaires, and we're usually trying to save money the best way we can. And so when you prepare foods, that is the best way to save money on protein. All right. Limited appetite or busy schedules usually prevent us from eating enough protein. Okay. And then dietary restrictions and food preferences. So like I said earlier, people that are potentially vegan or vegetarian, or on a specific diet that doesn't allow them to eat animal proteins, you have to really plan and do your best to get enough protein in your diet, because it's just very tough to usually get that amount for the common person. Okay. And to not just like drink protein shakes and stuff. Now, what I'll say is too, on the protein front, that sometimes people, or a lot of times people just go so extreme in some direction. And a lot of people have tried the carnivore diet, which is really, really high in protein. And the reason why the protein or the carnivore diet tends to work very well when it comes to weight loss is because protein is very satiating. When you start eating a lot of protein, you don't feel as hungry. And you feel like you feel good because it has a lot of nutrients that your brain and body needs. But the one thing I will say about the carnivore diet is you're missing quite a bit of micronutrients that you would get from plants, from other sources. To wrap this up, I want to talk about why you should focus to wrap this up. So what do I want you to get out of this, right? I want you to know how much, and you don't have to continuously recalculate your protein needs every week or every month or every, you could probably do it every 6 months to a year, and you would have a good understanding of how much protein and fiber you need. And so then the first thing is to calculate the protein needs and fiber needs. And then your next step would be to get research or try to find out the types of protein that you can eat on a consistent basis and the fiber that you can eat or foods that have fiber that you can eat on a consistent basis that you can meet these protein needs and fiber needs. And that's the real takeaway that I want you to get out of this, is that once you know your optimal amount of protein that you need to take in, you start to have to figure out what are the food sources that are really going to get me to this and that I can, eat these day in and day out so that I know that I'm getting the right amount of macronutrients. So that's one thing I just want you to understand is this is like a tactical thing that I want you to know, because day to day, the food that you eat matters. And then once you figure this piece out, once you figure the food piece out and understand yourself a little more on this front, then you'll be able to reach your wellness goals maybe a little easier. Because I know that some people are working really, really hard in the gym or, going for runs or walks and doing all these things and just don't see a lot of great results when it comes to either losing weight, putting on muscle, or having a better gut, a healthier gut. And so it's very important to focus on these two, protein and fiber, in order to hone in on your diet piece so that you can hit your wellness goals. That's all I got, guys. I know hopefully that's helpful. I know I rambled on a little bit in some instances, but I really believe that if we focus on protein and fiber, and those other things will kind of take care of themselves. These are the two things that if you focus on these two things, then other stuff really, really falls into place. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Happy to answer anything you got. And hopefully that was helpful. And if you have feedback for me, I'd love to hear it. If you made it this far, I really appreciate you. And I'll put some videos in the show notes that you can look at and listen to, because I know I try to summarize all this stuff and it's a lot of information. So I appreciate you guys, and get after it.